author and nutritionist Robert Ferguson. Please welcome Robert Ferguson.
All right, y'all, let's hear it for America's Fat Loss Coach, Robert Ferguson!
Hey, this is Roberto Lorenzo Ferguson, aka Robert Ferguson, and I want to say hi. I am your nutritionist, and I share because I care. And I'm going to share something with you today. I just think it's gonna freak you out a little bit, because we're going to talk about a new study that just came out, and this study is so interesting to me because it's another demonstration of why you probably don't want to be consuming a lot of sweeteners. Now, two of the sweeteners that we're going to talk about are really causing the problems based on this study, but I've talked about sweeteners before, and we now know that practically all sweeteners, except for allulose that I'm aware of, causes some disruption in your gut microbiome, which makes up 70% of your immune system. And it plays a big role in mental health, right? Because 93% of serotonin is produced right there in your gut. So let's go ahead and bring out the music. Cut it off, baby. Boom! Because it's time to get there. Now, everything that I'm going to share with you today is brought to you by our Detox Drop. It's a 7-day program that gives you a jump start. It puts you in a really good place. It helps cut down those cravings. You can lose weight, specifically drop some body fat. It can help with uric acid levels. It can help with your fasting glucose levels. It can help with insulin, and it doesn't hurt. You're eating regular everyday food, and on average, you're consuming about 1,500 calories a day. So you can learn more about it. But again, our focus today is on this. Now, I'm going to share with you a few other things in this study, and I'm not going to keep you long, but it's information that you want to know. It's to your benefit. Now, before I jump into sharing with you this study, and I'm going to walk you through a couple cool things for you to become familiar with. Maybe I'm going to reinforce what you already know, or maybe you're going to learn something that you didn't know. But when you look at a person's body, as you can see in the photo here, the fat that we can squeeze, okay, that's subcutaneous fat. These sweeteners are causing some serious increase in visceral fat, like around the abdomen, like deep down inside, the type of fat that's associated with heart attack, stroke, etc. Like you could be a thin person and have a significant amount of visceral fat, same as fatty liver. We're also talking about the fat that's inside of your muscles. And this is the part that's scary to me. I'm going to show you, I'm going to give you a photo so you can see exactly what that is. And there's two types of fat there. You have intermuscular fat, and that's like the layers between muscle groups. Like when one muscle group is coming across or right next to another one, and there's fat in between. But the one that we're going to be talking about is intramuscular fat. And I've talked about it over the years, but this is when fat is woven amongst the muscle fibers. The sheaths improve it improves like the meat's moisture if you're talking about something that you're eating. But this is the kind of fat you don't want. Okay, well, you don't want either one of them. Like we don't want fat inside of our muscles. But this study is demonstrating that it increases fat both in the abdomen, visceral fat, as well as fat in your muscles. Okay, now the study goes like over 20 years. And I first saw it a couple days ago. It's published in the International Journal of Obesity. And over 20 years, what they did is they examined people's regular dietary intake. They paid, real close attention to these sweeteners, and we're talking specifically aspartame, you've heard about, and saccharin. Okay, well, aspartame, you'll find that like in Snapple, Jello, those Red Bull, like 0-calorie Red Bulls. Saccharin, you'll find that like in chewing gum, canned fruit, a lot of baked goods, soft drinks. You can find both of them in soft drinks, like 0 calorie, right? So no calories, but yet it's causing significant challenges. Now, in this study, the one that gets off the hook is sucralose. Okay, sucralose gets off the hook. Interesting. And that doesn't mean that you just rush and start using sucralose, which is Splenda, because there's other challenges that comes with that. Again, allulose is the one that I would recommend. But you want to do the best you can not to consume these things, even though they're 0 calories. You feel like, because we live in this world where everybody thinks everything is about calories in, calories out, calories out. But the reality is this: you're consuming something that has 0 calories, but yet is increasing fat stores in your abdomen and increasing fat within your muscle. This is not good for anyone, right? And so if you're consuming these things, I would stop them right now. Now, another thing that's interesting is that the American Diabetes Association and the American Heart Association, they actually recommend these sweeteners. They recommend these sweeteners in place of added sugars, where I'm like, if you're going to do sugar, just do regular sugar. So again, another great demonstration. We have these organizations that kind of gives us the guidelines. They set the rules. And if it's coming from the American Diabetes Association, if it's coming from the American Heart Association, it must be okay. Remember, you want to become your own health advocate. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit more about that. But in this study, which you can look it up, it's quite interesting. It definitely is, if you're already avoiding these types of things, I would just keep avoiding them. Okay, I would just keep avoiding them. And it does matter. You know what I mean? Everything matters. Your health matters. Your quality of life matters. Now, as I said, Splenda gets off the hook, but where you're going to find aspartame and saccharin is going to be in equal and sweet and low. Okay, so again, remember those words: saccharin, that's what makes up equal. Aspartame, that's going to be in your sweet and low, and then you'll see it in a whole bunch of other stuff. But that doesn't mean all the other ones are good. Okay, now let me get to what I really want to show you. So if you look to the left there, you can see normal fat. Okay, so there's fat. There's nothing wrong with fat. But when you start to get that visceral fat, it looks like the one on the right. And it builds up. Now, here's the good news. You can reverse and get rid of visceral fat. Now, I was at the fair and I saw people walking around eating a whole bunch of stuff that 100% contributes toward visceral fat. Ooh, they just don't know what's happening. So why not do something about it now instead of just letting it fester? Now, the one thing I want to show you up at the very top, you can see on the left, it points at intermuscular fat, right? So when you look at a steak, that's like the fat that's kind of like in between, the various muscles. The intramuscular it's the marbling that's inside of the muscle. Now, I can give you a clue. I used to do this a lot where I would have a woman, and it works for guys, but way easier with women. I would have them stand up and, make a fist and make a muscle, like a pose. And they would make a muscle with a pose. And then I would take my hand and I would squeeze on their muscle. And you could probably do this yourself or have your husband or, someone else do it for you. So you make a muscle and then they have them squeeze on your muscle and they can feel nodules, like little marbling, like little round little things in there. That's marbling inside of your muscle tissue. And by doing that, it gives me a pretty quick idea of what a person's body fat is. So remember, intramuscular, it weaves itself inside of the muscle fibers. Not good. Okay, not good. And you can reverse it. This is another reason why you want to be active with activity. You want to lift weights because as you're working those muscles, it helps the fat from lumping up and getting stored inside of the muscle. If you're not working that muscle and you're eating and not really taking care of yourself, then not only are you going to have subcutaneous fat and visceral fat, but you're going to have fat that gathers inside of the muscle. And that interferes with signaling. That hurts your mitochondria, your ATP, like that battery cell starts to go down. and then you start to not really want to exercise. You don't have energy to exercise. You're like, it's hard. It's hard to get going. Everything just spirals downward, which is not good. And again, this is not my opinion. I'm sharing with you a study that says it all. I mean, it definitely will give you additional reason to avoid these sweeteners, and don't fall prey to the trap of 0 calories actually means something, because it doesn't. Not long ago, the World Health Organization, and I talked about this, they actually came out and talked about the health risks of aspartame. And I walked you guys through, if you caught it. If not, I'm sure I'll talk about it again. But aspartame is one of those things that when it first came into the marketplace, the government, everybody says, no way, this is not good. It had a lot of association and links to being a carcinogenic as far as causing cancer. Then Canada was the first to make it available through the food supply. A couple years later, America decided to jump on board because, it was all about the lobbyists, right? It's all about making money. And fast forward, a lot of companies started, and then they pulled out, then they came back, and then they pulled out. I just wouldn't do it. So put on your label detective hat, my friends, and do yourself a due diligence and avoid these sweeteners. If you're going to consume some sugar, eat some sugar. I don't have a problem with sugar. And right now, because so many people are pushing 0 calories still, they have no idea that it's creating like a ripple effect that negatively is hurting them. So it's like, yeah, you may have short-term benefit, but you're going to experience long-term pain. Go with regular sugar. Just do what we did in the 60s, the 70s. Go back in time, because they didn't have the problems that we have now. Cancers are constantly being diagnosed more now than ever. And it makes you wonder what the hell is going on. I don't know. But anyway, and a lot of you are like, well, I don't really do sweeteners. Put your label detective hat on. You may be consuming it. It may be that gum you're buying. It may be some of that stuff you buy in a health store. Because these sweeteners, I see them in Whole Foods. I see them at Trader Joe's. I see it in all the different grocery stores. So just because you shop somewhere, that don't mean anything. What matters is what you are aware of, right? So your nutrition education needs to be up there. All right. So I'm Robert Ferguson. Thank you for giving me a chance to share. I share because I care. And until the next one, peace.